Welcome to part two of our three-part series where I'm interviewing Michael Moses. He is a former food truck owner, a current YouTuber with a channel that's all about owning a food truck. And today we're talking about the transaction starts actually when the guest first notices your food truck. Before we get into that content, though, I want to remind you guys that this year, July 29th and 30th, I'm going to be speaking at the Food Truck Owners Expo in Houston, Texas. I'm giving two different classes, as well as I'm going to be on the floor both days, all day long, holding campfire sessions where you guys can sit down and talk with me and ask me any kind of questions you have about the food truck industry. I hope to see you there. There's going to be a link in the description where you have a discount code to be able to buy your tickets. Welcome to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. My name is Bill Moore. I am a food truck business coach, author of 5 food truck vending books, including Food Truck 101 and Food Truck 201. This podcast is all about helping you start and grow your food truck business. How confident are you about your menu pricing? Are your prices profitable, or are you just scraping by? If you're not sure, I've got just what you need. Table Needs has built a super simple menu pricing calculator that you can use for free, and it will help you figure out the best price point for every item on your menu. Get started with Table Needs menu pricing calculator today at tableneeds.com, or you'll find a direct link in the description below the podcast. So you're hitting on all the key points that, I teach in everything that I do, and a lot of other folks teach as well. You got to have a small menu. You got to have really great speed of service. You said several times that you focus on your customer experience, or, I call them guests. You focus on that guest experience. They're going to remember you. And if you're able to serve the food quickly, they can remember you more frequently because you haven't wasted their time.
Yep.
One of the things that I hear a lot of folks say is they'll wait on good food. Well, of course they will. You've already got their money. They're forced to wait.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean they're going to come back.
I have a rule. I have a slogan that I stick to. So for every 1 minute that a person waits, it feels like 5 on their body. So when
Absolutely.
you get there, you're looking around and you're cool. You order your food and all that stuff, and then a minute goes by, 2 minutes goes by, 3 minutes. They're still cool. That 4th minute, they're starting to think like, all right, what's going on? I'm looking around. Is it chaos on the truck? Are they organized? Like that 5th minute comes, and it's like, because people don't realize like the mentality when you come to a food truck, like they're excited to try it, but it's still a fast food thought process. Like, hey man, like I'm coming, but I don't want to be here forever. If I go sit down at a full service restaurant, I know the process. I know I'm going to be here for a little while. I accept that. I'm going there. They're not sitting down with that same thought process or coming to your truck with that same thought process, right? They want to get stuff. They want to try you. They want to enjoy it. They love the atmosphere of a food truck, but they also want to get gone, especially if they're on like a lunch break. You got a real short window of time during the lunch break. They'll give you a little bit more leeway if it's a dinner service somewhere, but you still got to get it out acceptable, right? My guest experience, because I also say guests too. I use guests a lot, like in the full service restaurants, but I don't know, I clicked over customer with food trucks. But yeah, that plays a huge role in one of many on the guest experience. A lot of people don't even realize where the transactions start. The transaction doesn't start with you ordering food and get, like, the transaction started when you first saw my truck. And there's like 10 or 11 different experiences you have in that one total experience. So that's a lot of stuff I like to teach too, is when the transaction starts, because a lot of people don't realize that.
You're so spot on with everything you're saying. I'm actually giving a class in my Facebook group, and it's all about speed of service. There's just so many food truck owners that don't understand what you just said. And I want them to replay this over and over and over. The experience has to be quick. It has to be, because, people, like you said, they come up to us and they look at us as a, QSR, quick service restaurant. They expect it to be fast. They don't expect to order something and then you cook it in real time and it takes 30 minutes. No one does that. I mean, even the fancy restaurants do pre-cooked food. They have to, because there's certain dishes that take hours upon hours to cook. You do a lasagna, for example. They're not making it when you order it.
Oh, no,
it's already made.
Yeah.
And people love, lasagnas because it takes that time to get all the flavors to melt. You're not doing a food truck now, or are you still doing one?
No, I do a lot of consulting now.
So let's talk about that. Somebody has a problem and they come to you. What do you do to help them out with the problem?
The majority of the time, people just really don't understand where to start. Like, you may have an idea and you may think that it's going to work. A lot of people, they may cook at home and they got this stuff, stuff because everybody has their own thing. they got something that they make at home that they really think will work on a food truck, but they don't understand that just because you can make that at home doesn't mean you can make it in volume. And then back to what we were saying about the speed of service. So I try to look at the menu and say, can this be done quickly? On a truck. Some people just need everything, which I'm working with a client right now. He has no experience in restaurants at all, but he's in an area where it's wide open. I mean, literally there are no trucks. So I literally helped him from A to Z. Like, here's what you need to be thinking about. Here's what you should be talking to different places about. I mean, just the whole thing. Like, let's work on your menu. How many options you're gonna have in your menu, your colors, your branding. The whole thing, like from A to Z. So it's really unique to the person because everybody has their own thing that they want to do. No concept is like another concept. It's like a fingerprint essentially, but we can still use the same principles to each unique situation and apply them. And I had a guy reach out to me. I think he lives in Australia. He reached out to me. He wanted to do something like just like a once or twice a week kind of thing. They have different rules over there as far as how you can, yeah. So we talked about that, so everybody's unique.
Yeah, it's pretty cool when you get to work with people that don't live in the U.S. because the rules are really different, but still food is food and service is service. So we're able to help really anybody. I've worked with some folks in Australia, New Zealand, England, and it's really just cool just to listen to what they have to go through because it's just different enough to make it a challenge, but it's still similar enough that, hey, we can help you be successful no matter what anyway.
Yep, exactly.
So I'm going to jump around just a little bit because something occurred to me while you were talking. The original food truck that you had, how did it grow? You talked about you were able to start getting, the bigger corporate gigs. Talk about what happened when you started getting those, because now you have a logistics problem.
Yeah, well, I tried to, you got to stay on your calendar and you don't, there are some people who intentionally double book themselves and then they'll pick which one is the best and drop the other one, but that's not, you want to be successful, that's not how you want to handle your calendar. I try to stay really organized with my calendar, but also understand, and then I also got as much information as I can from the actual vendor. So if it's a catering job, I really need you to nail down how many people are going to be there. Like you can't say, they're gonna be between like 100 to 500. Well, that's all. Like I can't buy food and say that I can give you a great experience with that big of a gap because I either got to go low or I got to go super high, and I don't want to leave with a bunch of stuff, right? So I try to really, like I said, keep that calendar organized, nail down how many people are going to be at your event or how many people work at this building that I need to be prepared for. Now, hopefully, a lot of times places already had trucks come out and they can say, on average, we've got 500 people that work here, but on average, we get about 80 to 100 that'll go down to visit the truck. So I can work with that gap, 80 to 100. I can work with that. So I try to get them to stick to a number, and depending on when the date is, like what's the weather, because we in Ohio, man, it could be, it's 80 today and it could snow tomorrow. You know what I mean? I'm still going to show up and do what I got to do, but that also affects how many people are going to come out and wait in that line that I'm going to keep short versus a hot, nice day where they would sit outside and eat. You know what I mean? So those are some of the things that I really, really tried to focus on and be prepared for. The way I had my truck set up, I had it kind of set up like an assembly line, so I can just go fries, scoop, 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 out. And I got it so good with it to a point where I could just work my truck by myself. And I would take in 3 orders, I would get 3 orders out. Take in 3 orders, get 3 orders out. My wife will come help me on some of the bigger events. And I had a couple people that had once I started to open up stores in the arenas and stuff, I had some, other people come and help me. But as far as my truck goes, I had that thing running like a machine. So I could do it by myself if I had to, or all I need is just one other person. And I'm listening behind me. And by when I'm listening to what people order, so I'm ahead of it. I'm not waiting on that ticket to be handed to me. I'm already halfway done by the time that ticket comes to me. I actually had somebody, I told them, I was like, it'll be ready in less than 60 seconds. I had the person stand there and count just to see if I would prove it, because I'm not just making stuff up. And I had it to him, I think in like 48 seconds. So he was happy about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. When I first started doing food trucks, it was actually a hot dog trailer, and I worked it by myself. And, hot dogs, everything's already cooked anyway. And you're cooking ahead if you need to. So you don't let yourself get to the point where you have no hot dogs ready to go.
Yeah.
But it's assembly, just like what you're talking about. And I would do the exact same thing. Take 3 orders and turn around and make them on hand. Hand out all the food and then take 3 more. I got to the point where essentially what I was trying to do was also cut down on my hand washes, because when you're dealing with money, now you got to stop, wash your hands and, put on gloves and that kind of thing. So what I would do would be take the initial 3 orders, and go wash my hands and get ready, get all that food out, and then take the next 3 orders, but not transact the money. and go ahead and make
Oh,
all that food and then transact the money. So
mhm.
eventually I got to the point where I had 6 orders working, at different stages. Some of them already paid for, some of them weren't. It's just a matter of you got to train yourself to do it. But it got to the point where it was second nature and like, yeah, I can remember 6 orders, no big deal. And back when I was doing it, we didn't have thermal printers like we do now.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything was, I'm either handwriting it or I'm remembering it.
Hmm.
You just got to do it. It's neat. And I love that you had somebody time you. Food
Oh
truck
yeah.
owners think they're super fast until someone pulls out a stopwatch. And they go, well, I'm not so fast.
Yeah, yeah. One of the bigger parts that really helped too, and this is like it's not like a secret, but it's one of the tactics, it's one of the strategic things that I did was I don't auction off food, right? So if we go through the process, you order your food, it's made and all that stuff. I don't stand there and say, okay, who had the blah blah blah? Like what's your name? Oh, my name
Right.
is Bill. I write Bill on the ticket. As soon as that's done, I can say, hey Bill, your order's ready. That little piece right there, that little personal piece right there, where you're not just a number or you're not just an order, people can feel that,
Mm-hmm.
like he knows my name. He this is a personal, and that really I could see how that worked. You can see people's faces, you know what I mean? On people's faces, they felt at home, if you will. That was one of the, I think, things that really helped me too. People remembering me versus somebody else, because I know a lot of trucks who don't do that.
No, you're right. Because we go to visit food trucks all the time, either checking them out because of competition or we're just eating because they serve really good food. And it makes you feel good when they recognize you and call you by name. So they're not having to ask every time that you step up there, what was your name again?
Yeah, yeah.
And again, that personal touch that makes a difference. I'm glad to hear you talk about that because that is super important.
Yes, sir.
So at the point that you were growing, you mentioned that you got into arenas. Talk about that transition.
So when I started my truck, my goal, my plan was to never be in it forever. And everybody's different, it just was what I wanted to do. I had the thought process, the traditional thought process where you might think like, okay, you start with a truck, then you get a store, then you might franchise, and then, that process, right? So because of what I served, I started to look around and I'm like, man, this will really, people go to sporting events. They love fries just like anybody else. They might eat them more and this sort of thing. So I did a little email hack that I know, and I pitched the people at the Schottenstein Center here, where Ohio State plays basketball. Went there one day, cooked up like 3 different options, my big hitters. About 8 people tried it and the whole thing. And they didn't say, okay, we'll get back to you. They literally tried it and walked me up to the store that they wanted me to be in at that first meeting. So once I did that, I said, man, I think I'm going to change my model from what I was initially thinking, because overhead can be a lot when you start to get into stores and stuff. So I'm like, if I can get in here on a game that's 4 hours, number one, the markup on food in stadiums is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I can keep my overhead low because we're only in there on like a 4 hour window. My margins are higher because I can charge a little bit more. And I also have alcohol now because they wouldn't let us serve alcohol on the food truck because they call it a mobile vehicle, which is drinking and so they wouldn't let us do that. I can have, I can do that. I can serve candy. I can do all kinds of different stuff now. And like I said, I know it will work. I can move across the country like I plan to do, like franchising, but I can just do it in these stadiums. And, we worked a deal out where I didn't have rent. We just did a split. 70-30 my food that I got, and then the alcohol and the candy and stuff like that. It was a 70-30 split with them.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody can, I try to get these newer thinking models versus that flat rent. That's more of a older thought process. We split what came in, everybody can go home, get up, happy the next day, come in, and you don't have these bills hanging over your head. I started to think like maybe this is the way that I should go. So I sold my truck September of 2019. I worked the whole basketball season at the Shot. I worked basketball, hockey, a lot of concerts, and I was starting to move. Levy Restaurants is the people who manage all the vendors at these stadiums, and they're all across the country. So I was like, man, if I can develop a partnership with them, I can start to move in these different arenas and stuff. So I got a deal set up with Shot. I got a deal set up with the Clippers. They're the Cleveland Guardians AAA team that's here. I was working on Nationwide Arena, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the hockey team. I was just got a deal done with the Columbus Crew, the Major League Soccer team here. And I was working on the football stadium where Ohio State plays. The fire marshal was giving me headaches about adding more deep fryers in the stadium. He didn't want to. So we were trying to figure that out. But so that's how I changed. That's what, if I'm answering your original question, that's what my original business model was, the thought process was, but it changed. And I started going that direction, and then COVID happened.
Tomorrow, we'll wrap up the interview with Michael Moses. We're going to be talking about the grand opening day doesn't actually have to be the first day you're open. Thank you so much for listening to the 10-Minute Food Truck Training Podcast. If you're finding all the information helpful to your food truck business, please become a monthly supporter of the podcast. Just hit the support button or follow the link in the description. Every little bit does help keep us going. Join our Facebook group. It's called Food Truck Training. We have a whole bunch of awesome members at all different levels, from brand new beginners to decades-old veterans. They've all got your back when it comes to helping you with your food truck. And again, thank you for listening. Come back tomorrow, because I got plenty more to say when it comes to helping you and your food truck business grow.